Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully this will be a very productive meeting for you. I am sorry that this takes 2 hours, but this is a great session to be able to pass along to your students. I don't know how many of you have tried to master the calculator and have not been successful. That ideally was one of the reasons why I started. I'm going to turn this camera on if I can. And that was one of the reasons why I kind of started this entire session because there's not a lot out there. The GED does have a short video on a calculator, but it does not go into as much detail as we are going to go into today. Dan, I'm just going to double check. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to double check that. So before we get started, I want to just go over some of the things and some of the practices that we are going to undertake today. Um,
Now,
I'm going to
Karen,
go over just some key calculator basics.
I hate to interrupt, Karen, but you are not in presentation mode that we can see.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
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 I'm going to be going in and out of this particular mode.
Okay.
Um, One of the first things I want to go over with you today is just kind of our agenda. I want to be sure if you are a novice at the calculator that you understand where all of the keys are located on the calculator because I will be going through these. Uh, the first part that we're going to start with is mean, median, and range. And I like to start with this because the steps that we use for mean, median, and range using this, the data and the stat key are going to be very similar to what we're going to do when we move into slope and y-intercept. For finding functions, we are primarily going to be using the table key today, and then we're also going to be using the variable key. So if you're not sure where the variable key is or what it does, I'm going to take you through that. We're then going to move into solving equations using substitution as well as solving systems of equations. And in this instance, I'm going to give you two different ways that you can use these. One of them will be using the data and the stat key previous to some of the items that we did um, above with median and slope and y-intercept. And then we're also going to use it using the store key and the variable keys so that you have an understanding of how you can use it both ways. And lastly, I'm going to take you through how to use it for quadratic equations. For those of you who have not previously done this session, I want to just give you a basic understanding of where some of these problems that we're going to go through come from. Uh, Primarily, they're going to come from this calculator practice for the GED test. Now, if you are not a GED state, but you do use the TI-30XS, we do have a different workbook that is for HSE tests. Many of the items that we're going to go through, though, are going to go through both of those workbooks. Some of the practice problems are going to come from this Math Sense focus on analysis, and others are going to come from our score boost for TABE. This is going to be the D level and primarily the number system and functions one. So that's our mathematics one. Uh, Dan will be going over or putting up a handout that we have. So there are going to be two handouts that you can access. This one of the TI-30 multi-view YouTube video list is a video list that I curated. These all come from YouTube. And if you get this via email, most of these are going to be hot links. I think there's one here that doesn't have a hot link to it, but you can just retype these in if you can't find it or doesn't come up for you. You can just find these by going to YouTube and putting these in, and then the videos should come up. So if you're planning on using a video in class, in addition to what we're going to be doing here, you can use the YouTube curated video list. One other piece that we have on our website is this is this additional practice problems. These are additional practice problems that we created using functions on the calculator that is up on our website. You do have to go under the GED test workbook for the GED to find this. So Dan's going to put up a link on that as well. And prior to us getting started, what you're going to see me do today is I have purchased a TI-30XS calculator emulator. This calculator emulator will provide you with step-by-step. So if you look down here on this key press history, you're going to see all of the different keys that I pushed and the order in which I pushed them. And then you're also going to see the data display editor, which is located here. And if you have a calculator in front of you, it will be the big data display editor that, when you go to turn your calculator on, that's where everything resides. So I am going to put this in slide mode here, and we are going to go through some of these areas. Dan, are you seeing my display as the full screen?
I am. So far, just the slides, not the emulator.
Right. Okay. I don't have that up yet. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just tell you that this area right here is what we are going to call the display data display editor. I'm just going through this so that you and I are both comfortable with the language that I'm going to be using as we go through this calculator practice today. This button right here is the second button. If any of you have used it, you know you have to push this first before you get to anything that happens to reside above any of these other buttons down the list. These are going to be the directional arrows. So if you either need to move right or left or up or down, these are the directional arrows that you're going to use for that. This key right here is called the data key. When we hit the second button before we hit the data key, we're actually going to go into stat mode. So we're going to use that for computing mean, median, range, as well as slope and y-intercept. If you look two keys above the on button, you're going to see a variable key. And if you push that variable key, the first variable that's going to come up is x. But if you punch in actually just hitting that key multiple times, you're going to see that the variable is going to change. So you can put in an X, Y, Z, T, A, B, and C. We're going to use this key to dig into some of the substitution method as well as the quadratic equation. This store key right below the variable key is going to be used when we get to the substitution method, and we'll be able to store some values. The table key is going to come in handy when we are looking to do functions or solving systems of equations, depending on which method works best for the type of problem that we have. And lastly on the slide is your negative button. If you need to put a negative key in front of a number, you're going to put this in first. Additional keys that we are going to practice with today, and I just want to be sure that you all are familiar with where these are located. These are going to include this fraction key. So this is the N over D key. Please locate that on your calculator. There is also a fractions to mixed number key. Keep in mind that we either have to put in a fraction that is a mixed number first in order to convert it, or we have to put it in a mixed number to be able to convert it back to a fraction. Either way, that key is located here, and you will need the second button in order to activate that. This double toggle key can be used for turning fractions into decimals or exponents to roots and vice versa. The caret key located here is used to put in an exponent greater than 2. It does not require the second button. There is
Karen,
also an exponent.
Karen,
Yes.
um, we still see the first slide, slide 6. I think you're on 7.
I am on 7.
Okay, so now we just see the regular PowerPoint, but not in presentation mode.
Right.
We do see slide 7.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna leave it here because we're gonna move forward with all of this. Either
Okay,
way, and I'm gonna be going from here to the calculator. Okay, so for those of you who missed that, this is where your caret key is. This is where the exponent key is, which will get you whatever number to the second power. Keep in mind that if we have to call up a square root, the square root is also above this key. So we're going to hit the second button and then this x squared key to get there. If for any reason, if you are following along with your calculator and you need to reset your calculator because you're not sure what you did or you get a weird message that pops up on your calculator, go ahead and hit this reset button. You're going to have to hit the second button first, then the reset button. In order to do that, it'll ask if you want to reset yes or no. Just be sure you hit yes, and it will wipe out anything you previously had on your calculator. Okay, so I get asked this question a lot. I know that finding the mean, median, and range is something that your learners are going to have to know how to do. And hopefully, when they do this in the calculator prohibited section, they're not going to have just a laundry list of numbers that they need to put in here for this, because that may be a calculation that they're going to have to make in the calculator prohibited section of the test. However, if they're in the calculator uh, the calculator section of the test where they can use it, this is where it's going to really come in handy. One, because this is going to increase your learner's accuracy. The second thing it's going to do is it will definitely improve their performance, because when we go to use these keys, the second and the data key in here, it's going to be basically a list, and they can use the arrow up and down to double check the numbers that they have in the calculator. If they transpose numbers for whatever reason, they can just type over whatever that number is in whatever order it occurs, and then go through these same steps again to get to that number. So it basically is going to store some of these values for you. Additionally, if the problem is a two-part problem, so let's say it asks you for the total and then also asks you for the mean, you will be able to provide all of that information in one quick sweep of seeing all of the numbers loaded in here. So before we get to using the calculator, when we get to the display editor, there are going to be certain um, codes that are loaded into the calculator that have specific definitions. For those of you who maybe when you get your new calculators, you open up the back of the calculator and there's a piece of information in there and you just take it out and throw it away. I'm going to tell you that's where this information comes from. So if you buy new calculators and you open up the back of the calculator, don't throw that piece away. It's very valuable. Some of the information that we're going to be looking at today is going to include the total number of values or data points that we put into the calculator. So this is going to be what n equals. If we load in 15 numbers, n is going to equal 15. The next piece that's going to show up is this variable with a line over either an x or a y. That is going to equal the mean of all the values, either x or y, that we put in. Additionally, if we are looking for the sum of all the values, you're going to see this epsilon x or y. That's going to equal the sum of all the values that we put into our calculator. And then as we are going to scroll down, you're going to see where there's additional information in there. You're going to have quartile 1 and quartile 3. If you need to use those for a problem, those are going to be available to your student. If they need to find the median, it's going to be designated by this MED. And then the calculator is going to provide the max X as well as the min X. So if we have to find the range, we can just pick those values straight out of the list that we are going to be using. Okay, so I want to be sure that we are all together on this. And let's just do a quick calculator check on this. I'm going to bring up my calculator. I'm going to make this just a wee bit smaller. Okay, so we're going to do this together. If you have your calculator handy, this is what I want you to do. Be sure you've turned your calculator on. And after you've turned your calculator on, I want you to hit the data key first. So we're going to go over here and hit data. And you'll notice that I've already got this ported in here, but you're going to go ahead and put in these three numbers. So it's going to be the number 6, the number 10, and the number 24. When you go to add these numbers in, I'm going to put in the number 6. You're going to have to hit enter after each one. Once you hit enter, it's going to move you down the row and the column. So you're just going to put 10 in, and then you're going to add 24 and hit enter. Okay. From here, all I want you to do is just go back and hit the data key again. And you're going to notice now that once we do this, it's going to tell you, do you want to clear the values that you've already put in here? If I were to use this down arrow key, I can go down one more to number 4.
And someone is asking to be reminded where the data key is.
The data key is located right here. So it's going to be the third column, second row, right next to your directionals.
Yeah, we can't see your cursor, so that's why they are having trouble.
All right, let me see if
And they're saying I can't see your calculator, but right now you're still showing a slide, correct?
no, I'm showing the calculator too. Let me
Oh,
see.
well, we're not seeing that. There we see it.
Okay, so let me go back here. Here's where I'm going to clear this history too. So here's where the data key is, right here. We're going to hit data. Oh, let me hit data again. We're going to hit data. Then you're going to enter these numbers one at a time. So we're going to hit 6 and then enter 10 and enter and 24 and enter. Okay, now if you hit data again, it's going to ask you if you want to clear this. So you can scroll down to number 4 and it will clear all of the columns that are in your data here. So if we had information in column 1, 2, and 3, and we hit number 4, it's going to clear everything. So go ahead and do that and clear everything. Just hit sorry, let me delete this. Hit your data key and then hit number 4, and you'll see where it'll clear everything out. Okay. Are there any questions on this so far? Because we're going to launch into a few more problems.
Put your questions in chat. I'll make sure she gets them.
And then I'm going to move on to our first problem here. Okay. So can everyone see both the problem on the right and my calculator on the left?
Cannot. All we can see is the calculator.
Okay, let me share this. How about now?
Okay, that's working.
Okay. So this problem comes from our calculator for the GED test workbook. This happens to come from the statistics and probability area, so this is going to be a mean problem. I'm going to read this problem and then we'll talk about the problem. Omar was studying for his final biology test and wanted to know his average grade before the last test. His test scores from the semester were 83, 92, 71, 94, and 85. What was Omar's average before the test? So, to start this problem out, does anybody want to tell me uh, what we should do first?
They can't talk.
No, I know they're going to have to type it in the chat. So, okay, I'll give you a hint. The first
Okay,
thing we're going to do
we have an answer.
is, okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, yes, we're going to put all the values into data. So the first thing we're going to do is hit this data key to call up these three columns. So if you haven't already done that, I want you to hit the data key on your calculator so that you get these same three columns that I have here on mine. And then what we're going to do is enter these one at a time. And what is the key we have to press after we hit each one? Enter. Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Oh, it's Mitchell. Thank you, Mitchell. So let's start with entering these scores. We're going to put in 83 and enter, 92 and enter, 71 and enter, 94 and enter, 85 and enter. And I know I went through that a little fast, so I'm going to just hold here for a second. I also want you to see that if I were to use my arrow up key, I can go all the way up to the top of my list and I can double check these against the list that I'm looking at. As I mentioned before, let's say I transposed numbers somewhere along the way, and let's say this 83 was really supposed to be a 73. I can just type in 73 right over this and hit enter, and it will calculate the same values that I have here. And I can just pick up the same steps that we're going to do right after this. So I just want you to see, if you haven't already gone and checked through all your numbers, go ahead and do that now. And I am going to put in 83. Okay. So the next series of steps that we're going to do, once we've entered all of these in here, I want you to go all the way to the last entry, which is 85. And notice that I don't really necessarily have to count how many numbers I put in here. This last number that I'm on is gonna give it to me. So this is 5 numbers that I've put in here. And it will also tell you what that number is. So when I'm on this fifth value, it's telling me that the fifth value is 85. From here, what I want you to do is to hit the second button, and you'll notice that pops up here, and then you're going to hit the data key again. When you hit the data key again, you're going to notice that it's going to ask you for a few choices. It'll ask you, do you want one var stats or two var stats? Anything related to mean, median, or range, we're going to go to one var stat. And because this one is already highlighted, you'll see it's blackened here. All I need to do is hit enter. Then you're going to get some different data that pops up here. And all this is telling you is that all of your data is loaded into line 1, which basically equals column 1. And then it's giving us some frequency information. I'm not going to dig real deep into what this means. Just know that from here, you want to hit the enter button two more times. So this CALC starts flashing, and then you're going to hit it again. Um, when you hit it again, kind of like what we went over previously, you'll see that the n equals 5. So that's correct. We know there are 5 values that we put into the calculator. This X with the line over it is going to give us the average. If we use our down arrow keys, you're going to see that this is going to be the total of all the numbers we put in. And we're also going to get some additional data. But again, I'm not going to go into exactly what these are because these are for using it for frequency and other statistical analysis, which are not required on the GED. So I want you to just keep hitting your down arrow until we get to this information. So this is going to tell you that the min X is 71. That's the actual lowest value that we have here. The quartile 1 is 77. The median is also 85. Quartile 3 is 93. And the max X is 94. Now, if we were going to find the range, what numbers on here would we use to find the range? Correct. We're going to use the min and the max. So we're going to subtract 71 from 94 to get that number. Um, and again, as you're looking at these problems, I know that some of these problems may be on the calculator prohibited section, but once we get to some that are a little bit more complex, this is a really good way to be able to use this data key for these kinds of questions. Um, I'm going to just pause here because I am actually going to give you a opportunity to take a picture of uh, these steps because I'm going to ask you to not do the next problem, but the one after this all by yourselves. So if you, again, have a camera and you want to take a picture, go ahead and take a picture. Um, this is
Um,
where,
I don't know
yes.
if you have time, but we have a question from Janet, and she said she she understands how to put the data in,
Mhm.
but she doesn't understand how to get to the results that you found for X bar, the average, the min, the max, the summation,
Okay.
sigma X, etc.
Okay, we're gonna do this problem next together. So I'm just gonna make sure I'm sharing the screen with the problem.
Right now we
And
can right now we can only see half of the problem.
okay. Um I don't really want you all to concentrate so much on the problem. Just know that this is again another average question. So what I want you to do is to hit the data key if you're in this mode where you've got this list showing up, and even if you're not, hit the data key twice until you get to this clear formula section. And from here, just hit number 4. It's going to clear all this data out. Okay, so we're going to do this same problem again. And again, this is just an average problem. So we're just looking for the average temperature. Um, so that this person will know what to expect when they're on vacation. And this is again where using the calculator in these steps to find the mean is really important because there's a lot of numbers we have to put in here. And rather than putting them all in, with a plus sign after them, and then sometimes you can't even read it afterwards, and you're not sure um, if you have all the data in there, this is the easiest way to do it. So steps again are going to be, if you haven't already hit the data key and gotten these three columns up, you're going to hit the data key again. Let me just, okay, so in this case, hit the data key twice because that was already here. But you would hit the data key once technically if you're just turning your calculator on. So I'm going to put in the numbers that I see here, followed by enter. So it's 70, enter, 70, enter, 66, enter, 65, enter, 69, enter, 67, enter, 69, enter, and 68, enter. Now, if I wanted to, I could just double check that we have 8 values listed here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 values. Okay. So I just counted these. It looks like there are 8. Um, this next step is a really important step. So Janet, to get to your question and seeing the values, you want to hit the second button and then the data key. And then you're going to just hit enter to get to this one var stat. Once you've gotten here, all we're going to do is hit enter until this CALC is flashing. So it's around about 3 times. And then you're going to get to the N, which is 8 values. The average is 68. If we wanted to go down here and just take a look at some of this other data, the total on this is 544. The min X is 65. Quartile 1 is 66.5. The median is 68.5. Quartile 3 is 69.5. And then the max X is 70. So again, if we had to find the range, I could go back and look at the min X as 65 and the max X as 70 and just subtract those numbers to get it. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being I feel really confident about this, I'm pretty sure I know how to do it, and a 1 being I have no idea what we've just done. Go ahead and give me a counter as to where you fall in this. Okay. Okay, so for those of you who are a 3 or less, um, let know that this is being recorded, and I also have separate recordings for you to go back and view. For those of you who feel like you're at a 4 or higher, I'm going to move on to this next problem. We're still going to continue to go through these same steps even as we do this with this next problem, but I will show you how these problems can be used. So again, if you have a camera and you want to take a picture of the steps, I'm gonna pause here for a second and let you take a picture. Keep in mind that this pressing the second button and going to this one's var stats and then hitting enter all the way through until you get to the data list is the most important steps in doing this. Okay, and I am now going to allow you all to do this problem on your own. Okay, so just know again that this particular uh, problem is an average problem. It says average right here. And so I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do this on your own. If you get stuck, go ahead and put something in the message, like if you get a weird message on your calculator, um, put something in chat and I can email you individually. Okay, we only have about 30 seconds left, so I'm gonna just end this here and let's go over this problem. Um, I like to demonstrate this problem, one, because I feel like once again, it shows you the value of using the calculator for these types of problems in a completely different way. You're using decimals here, and for those of you who noticed, uh, you know, if we have a if we have a decimal point, so in the instance of this, we don't, but if we had a decimal point that had a third decimal listed here, it wouldn't really matter. And we're less likely to make an addition calculation mistake if we're able to put all this in the calculator, because then I don't have to worry about lining up all these numbers and doing it that way. So I'm going to clear this key press history, and if you want to go ahead and again do this with me, you can. So I've done this clear press history here, and if we were to put all of these numbers in, we would put them in exactly the way we see them. So we are going to put in 4.27 and enter, 5.46 and enter, 5.83 and enter, 5.42 and enter, 5.61 and enter, and 4.91 and enter.
And this is a good way to demonstrate what you do if you make a mistake, because you missed the seven in that first digit, first entry.
Let's see. Okay, so I'll just put in 4.27. And like I said, I can just write over this and hit enter, and you'll see that it completely changed it. Once again, if I wanted to go through and just double check these numbers to be sure that I've entered them correctly, I can go ahead and do that from here. And that's just a function of me scrolling down using this down arrow key. And we'll notice that on this last one, 4.91, this number 6 appears, and this is pretty easy to tell that I should have 6 values in here, so this is another good way to double check that. So again, the key to making sure that you are putting this in correctly and that you are doing this for mean, median, and range is to hit the second button and then the data key. If you don't hit the second button and you just go straight to the data key, you're just going to go straight back to your list, or you're going to go to clear. And if you get to the clear section, just come back here and hit the data key again. Don't clear it because you don't want to have to put all these values all over again. The other thing is that I can just hit enter from here because I am going to one bar stat. We know that we're just going to enter all the way through this until we get this CALC to flash. We'll hit it one last time. And this will tell us that we have 6 values in here. The average is 5.25. So this is going to be the answer to this question, 5.25. And if I scroll down and wanted some additional information, I could see that this is 31.5 for all the values. I have a min-x of 4.27, quartile of 4.91 for quartile 1. The median is 5.44, so if I needed to evaluate the mean versus the median, I can do it this way. Quartile 3 is 5.61, and the max x is 5.83. So again, this is just a quick and easy way to be able to calculate all of these and to show your students the value of using this uh, in a way. And I'll tell you, it does get easier. So the more you do this, and I suggest that you teach these skills at the same time that you are going to teach the concept. Obviously, you want your students to do the skill and to learn the skill, but the more they're able to do this, and understand the steps that are involved in this, the easier it's going to be for them. It's also much quicker. So this is going to be a bit of a time saver. Okay, we're not going to forget everything that we just learned, but I am going to move on here and we're going to talk about slope problems. Many of the slope problems that we're going to look at today are going to be pretty generic slope problems. Again, your learners are going to have to learn the the formulas associated with this in case there is a calculator prohibited question that is on the test that they need to understand. But on the calculator accepted or areas, that this is a great way to be able to do this with very, very little knowledge of slope in general. So we're going to talk about this problem. This is going to be a table, and this is a really above style question, I would say, that they're going to get on the GED, where there is going to be a table associated with this. So one, they need to know what the table represents and how the table is representative of X and Y values. And you'll see here that because this is coming from our tape practice book, that we've listed that these are X values here and these are Y values here. The second thing your students need to recognize when it comes to a slope problem is anytime there is a question that says, what's the rate of change? That's always going to be a, uh, a, a slope style question. So from here, they can do exactly what they would do normally in a slope style question. I'm going to bring the calculator up here and I'm going to hit this key press history, and I'm also going to clear this out. So if you haven't also done that, hit your data key twice and then just go to number 4 and hit enter. And then I'm going to hit this key press history so we can take a look at this problem together. So Dan, are you still seeing my calculator and the problem up on here?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So in this instance, when we're talking about a slope problem, we really just need to pick 2 points on this line or in this table. So I'm going to pick this first point and its corresponding y value, and the second x value and its corresponding y value. The only trick that is involved in this is that we're going to use our arrow right key when we move columns. So, like you would see if you were looking at X values and Y values, there's usually a column for each. So I want you to think about this L1 column as having only your X values in it, and this second column as having only your Y values in it. So when we go to enter these numbers, we're going to pick up our first X value, and then we're going to put in our second X value. And then we're going to move to the Y column and we're going to put in our first Y value and then our second Y value. So let me show you how that looks in practice. I'm going to put the number 2 in here and enter, and the number 6 in here and enter. And now I'm going to move to the right, and you'll see that even though I was on this row, it moves me all the way over and up to the first row. So now I'm going to put in 7.5 and enter, and 16.50 and enter. Okay, now like we did before with our average, we're going to go to the second button and then the data key again. Only this time we're not going to go to 1 var stat. I want you to drop down and go to 2 var stat. You can either do that by just hitting the number 2. Let me go back here. By hitting the number 2 or by dropping down using your arrow button and going to the number 2. Just be sure that this 2 is blacked out the way mine is, and then you can just hit enter. Okay, you'll notice now that this data, this information that's listed here is a little bit different than what it was when we were looking at mean and median. And all this is telling us is that our X values are in column 1 and our values are in column 2. So we're just going to confirm that that is the case just by hitting enter like we did before until the CALC is flashing again, and then we're going to hit it one last time. Okay, now when we hit this, I want you to use your down arrow key, and you're going to have to keep scrolling pretty far down because this is going to give us a lot of information that looks like the mean, median, and mode, and that's not the information we're looking for. So you want to keep scrolling down until we get to this. It's a D with a colon and a little letter A. This is going to be our slope, which is 2.25, and our y-intercept, which is be this E with the arrow down and a B next to it, which is 3. Okay, I know we went through this fairly quickly, so let's take a look at another problem. I'm going to clear this key history. Are there any questions related to this so far? Okay, I'm going to move on to a different style of problem. This is also a slope problem, and so it's telling us what is the slope of the line that passes through point E and point F. Now, in this case, we're going to have to give it points. So we're going to have to find out where point F is on this graph and what its X value is, and also what its Y value is. And then we're going to have to do the same thing with point E. So I'm going to call my calculator up here, and this time I'm just going to move this over. So let's go back to our data. I'm going to clear this key press history, and I'm also going to clear these values in here. Feel free to do the same. You can also just key over them. So once again, this first column is going to be our X value. So we're going to put in the number 4 and enter, and then we're going to pick up our second X value, which is a 2. So we'll put in 2 and enter. Then we're going to scroll to the right, and we're going to put in the number 3 and enter. And this time we have a negative number. So we're going to have to use our negative key and then put that number in and then hit enter. Okay, again from here, we're going to do the same steps we did before, which is hit the second button, the data key, and again, which of these two are we going to find the slope and the y-intercept? 2, exactly, Q Mercury. So we are going to drop down, and then we're just going to hit enter. Just confirming that our X values are in the first line, the Y values are in the second. So we're going to enter all the way through this. And once again, we get a lot of information in here that we don't necessarily need at the outset. So we're not really looking at the average, and we're not really looking for the mean or the median. So I want you to just keep scrolling down until we find this little A, which equals 2, and the B, which is our y-intercept, which equals -5. Now, I'll just tell you that this really comes in handy when students are dealing with values that are either negative numbers or values that are decimals or points in a line that look a little funky. Um, this is a way for them to be able to input this information to get the correct answer and also to make sure they didn't transpose a negative number or a negative sign somewhere along the way. Or they were supposed to, they had two negatives, which is supposed to be a positive, and they didn't turn it into a positive. This will automatically do all of that for them. So I just want to make that distinction. Um, we're right at 3 o'clock, and ideally I'd like to get to this functions section. So I'm gonna provide you, if you, at the end of this session, if you were to turn over our calculator workbook, you will see where there are other uh, practical examples and places you can go to go ahead and get additional practice problems for slope of the line. But understand that we're really just going through the same steps. The only difference here is that we're going to go to the 2 var stat instead of the 1 var stat. And we're just going to confirm where this data resides. So I want us to start to take a look at functions. And for functions, we're going to use a completely different key and completely different keystrokes here. So we're going to go to the table key. If you call your calculator up, let me just move mine over here. I'm gonna clear this and go here and clear this.
I've been entering some messages, I thought to everyone, but they only came to you. Someone asked about the manual. I'm going to put the link in there or the manual. TI
Okay.
makes it available for free.
Okay. So the table key is going to be located. It's on this third row of the calculator. It doesn't have anything, any keys above it other than this F to D key. Uh, and you'll notice that when you go to put this key in, it looks a lot like a function problem. So it's going to be y equals with that. Um, I tend to think that a lot of students get very confused because we have a lot of terms that we associate with functions. You know, there's input, output, um, etc. with that. So I like to use this table key because this kind of clears things all together. Plus, when we go to use these keys, it actually does look like a table with X values and Y values. This is also a quick way to, if a student has to graph a line and they need 3 points in order to do that, this is also a way for students to be able to uh, use the 3 points to be able to do some graphing. And it's also a way for them if they come up with numbers that just are, out of control, like the X value is 15 and the Y value is 42. You don't want to have to graph that. So this will allow them to look for uh, three different points that maybe will show the trajectory of the line, and then they can make determinations from there. So if you've got this, your table key loaded in here, um, I want you to just, let me see if I have this table key again. Okay, now we have to put some values in here. Okay, so I want you to put this problem into your calculator. Put in 2x, oops, you're going to put in 2, and then you're going to use your variable key and just put in x, and let's put in +7. Okay. The next thing I want you to do is to hit enter. And you'll notice now that we get some different information on here. I don't want you to be confused by this information. I'm just going to give you some really quick tips from here. It's really easy to start your number count from whatever number you want to. I suggest always just starting with a number 1. It's just super quick and easy. You don't necessarily have to fill this step, but what this means is that if you wanted to count by fives or twos or threes or nines, you can use this step by and put a different number in here. If you want the calculator to generate an infinite number of lists of X and Y values, you just want to get this auto highlighted. So all you're going to be doing here is moving your down arrow key. We're going to just highlight this auto, and then I'm going to hit enter until this OK is flashing, and then I'm going to hit it one last time. So what I want you to see when you do that is I can use my up arrow key to find any numbers that I want to, and this is going to go into infinity, negative numbers as well as positive numbers. So again, if I have three numbers that I want to graph and I want to, make this super easy, I can just pick the ones where the values make the most sense. So I can graph -2, 3, -1, 5, 0, 7, or I could graph 0, 7, 1, 9, and 2, 11. And this is again where this comes in handy. So let's move on to a problem, and we're going to tackle this one together. Now, I'll just tell you that when you are given a value of f, so in this case, it says x equals -5. I'm going to show you two different ways that we can input this into the calculator using the table key to get an answer. So I'm going to call up this table key, and let's just go to table, and I'm just going to clear this. So just hit your clear button. I'm going to go back to this key press history. So hang on one sec, I'll clear this. Okay, so now we were at y equals. And what we are looking for is what is the value of f of x when the equation is -7x plus 4. So we're just going to put in the number 7. Oops, sorry. This is a, hold on. Let me go back to table. Let me delete this. Okay, we need to start with a negative because we have a -7x here. So you're going to input -7. We're going to go over here to our variable key and put our variable in. So -7x. And then we're going to add +4. And then I'm going to hit enter. Okay, I'm going to make sure that my start is at 1. So I'm just going to put a number 1 in. And then I'm going to enter through here. I'm going to leave this auto on because let's say I don't know that the f of x equals -5. And let's just see where -5 pops up. So now from here, I can scroll up and look for -5 in the x column. And I see that -5, the y value on this is 39. So if I were to pick an answer, I'm going to pick answer D, 39. I want you to go back to your table key. Okay, your same formula or equation should be in here. So it should still say -7x plus 4. I want you to just enter all the way through this and put your start at 1 and then enter. And when you get to this auto where the auto is flashing, I want you to arrow over one time so that the ask X is now flashing. And then we're going to enter again until our OK is flashing. And now you'll notice that this changes. So I just have blank values here. But what I can do is put in -5 and then enter. And it'll tell me that that value is 39. So if this problem had two f of x values here, And let's say it gave me f of x equals -5 and f of x equals, I don't know, I'm just going to make a number up, -11. I can put -11 in here and hit enter, and it'll tell me what the y value is. Additionally, if I have to graph this equation and I need 3 points, I could put in -15 and hit enter, and it'll tell me that the corresponding y value is 109. Now, I could go ahead and graph this. I know that these points are kind of um, super out there, but I just want to show you this. One, because you can only put 3 values in here. So when I'm using the ask x function on this table key, I can only put up to 3 values in here. I can't do any more. However, if I want to change these values for whatever reason, and let's say I'm going to put in the number 7, I can just type over this like I did with some of these others, and it'll tell me that if the x value is 7, the corresponding y value is -45. Similarly, I can make up additional values here. Let's say I wanted to put in the number 11 as a positive and not a negative. It will again give me values in this same range. And if I wanted to put in a +15, I could put that in and see what the values are. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and take a picture of the steps that we're using in here, you can go ahead and take a picture of this using your phone. And I'm going to give you a problem that I'm going to have you do all on your own on this next go round. Okay. So this problem is, it comes from our calculator practice workbook, and it tells us the equation is 2x plus 9. What are uh, f of 3 and f of -6? So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to come up with a response on this. Okay, and that's time. So I'm going to clear this history, and let's start with our equation. We're going to enter it just the way we see here. So we're going to put in a 2x plus 9 and enter. I'm going to make sure this start is at 1. And we could do this 2 different ways. So if I just wanted to hit the auto key and just see what comes up and look through the list when it does populate, I can do it that way. But for the sake of this, since we do have values that we know, so we are looking for a 3 and a -6, I'm going to go to this ask x version. So I'm going to enter through here and then arrow over until I get to this ask x. I'm going to enter until we get to the little table with our x and y values. I'm going to put the number 3 in here, and I see that the y value is 15. And if I put in a -6 and enter, I see that the y value is -3. So I'm really just now looking for the answer, the correct answer, and it's going to be answer A, where f of 3 is equal to 15, and f of -6, yeah, is -3. Okay. I want us to be able to get to the really fun part of this, which is putting in a quadratic equation. So I do have some additional problems here, and Dan is going to share the deck with you all. But I want us to move on to solving system of equation problems and using this with the store key and substitution. Oftentimes, students can make multiple mistakes when they are using substitution. So this is going to shortcut some of those mathematical errors And it also kind of makes understanding the substitution principle a little more real. So I want you to just experiment with your calculator. And what I want you to do is to, let me clear this. I want you to this table clear, and I'll just clear this. Okay, and what I want you to do is to go to your variable key. Hold on a second. I'm going to clear that. Okay, so I got my memory cleared. What I want you to do is go to your variable key and hit it once. And then I want you to notice how many times you have to press these keys to get these different variables. So if I hit it twice, I get the Y. If I hit it a third time, I get Z. If I hit it a fourth time, I get T. If I hit it a fifth time, I get A. If I hit it a sixth time, I get B. And if I hit it a seventh time, I get C. Um, I'm gonna stop here and just let anybody who wants to take a picture of this take a picture, because we are going to use this not only for the next couple of problems, but also when we get to the quadratic equation problem. So if you have a camera and you want to take a picture of this, go ahead and take a picture of this now. Okay, so let's talk about solving a system of equations. In some instances, you might be able to use the table key in order to do it. It sort of depends on the nature of the problem and the way in which the question is being asked. Um, you can also store your values, though, so that they represent a specific variable. And let me show you what that looks like. I'm not going to do it with this problem exactly. It gets a little complicated, but with this one. All right, so we are going to use substitution method to solve this problem. And the way we're going to use the substitution method is the substitution method is going to literally work like um, any other substitution method problem that we would do. So in this case, if we wanted to, we would pick one of these answers and drop it in here as our C value. But in this case, what I want you to do is we're going to store this literally as the C value. I'm going to hit the number 3, and I'm going to store it as excuse me, as the C value. So I'm going to hit this a number of times, and then I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in this square root. So I'm going to hit the second button, square root. I'm going to put the first variable in here. So I'll hit this multiple times until I get a C. I'm going to square it. And then I'm going to go -4, and I'm going to square this value. Okay. Now, because I don't have any more entries to make in here, I am going to error write once just so I'm coming out of this square root, and then I'm going to hit enter. Um, because we got a domain error on this, 3 is not the answer. So let's take a look at a different value. I'm going to clear this again, so just hit your clear button, and let's store 4. We're going to try number B here. Let's store 4 as C, and we'll go to the second key and square root and square our C. And then we'll put in 4 squared. I'm just going to come out of the square root and hit enter, and we get 0. So we know that answers A and B are not correct. Um, so now we're going to store answer C. So you're going to put in 5 and store that as C and enter. And what I want you to do is to scroll up and over. So you may have to play around with your directional key. So you're going to scroll up and over until you get this formula highlighted, and then you're going to hit enter. This just allows us to copy it, so I don't have to put all this information in again, and then I can hit enter, and we'll see that this answer comes out as 3. So the correct answer is going to be answer C, number 5. And again, if I wanted to, I could double check this, so I could drop in 5 squared minus 4 squared to see if this comes out correctly as number 3. So just know that you may have to play around with this a little bit. And again, because we're dealing with some unique problems here, and I specifically selected this type of problem so that you can work out how you do this, and to go through this multiple times so that you're not just doing it once. Um, let's go here though, and let's take maybe a little simpler problem. And we're going to go, what is the solution to the system of equations? Um, I don't know how many of your students come across these types of problems and then just, start to freak out because they don't really know what to do. Or this just looks so complex, they don't even want to tackle it. But I'm going to tell you that there are some very simple ways to do it. So we're just going to use, again, the substitution method, and all we're going to do is just select one of these answers here. I'm going to leave answer D out as a no solution, uh, just so we can eliminate some of these right off the bat. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to put these in using even more than one variable. So let's go in here and let's select answer number B. So I'm going to put -4 in here, and I'm going to hit the store key, and I'm going to store it as X. So you're going to hit -4, hit the store key, hit X, and then hit enter. Then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to store -6 as my Y value. So I'll put in -6. I'm going to store that. I'm going to hit the key twice to make sure I'm storing it as Y, and I'm going to hit enter. And now I can just put this either one of these equations in to see if the value comes out as 9 or not. So I'm just going to type this in exactly the way I see it. So I'll put in -4x plus 9y, and then I'll hit enter. And I see that the answer is -38. So this is definitely going to be eliminated as a possible response. Let's try response number C. So in this case, I'm going to put in the number 9. I'm going to hit the store key and store it as X and enter. And then I'm going to put in the number 5 and store it as Y and enter. And once again, I'm just going to put in -4x plus 9y and see if the answer is 9. So in this case, the answer is 9. And now I can double check to see, does it also work for this equation? Because if it works for both of these equations, then that is the correct answer. So let's put in x minus 3y and see if we get -6. And we do. So I know that the solution to this is going to be answer C, numbers 9 and 5. Okay, Um, let's go here and let's drop down and talk a little bit about quadratic equations and how you're going to use this for solving a quadratic equation. So we all know that the quadratic equation is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So what is it about this particular equation that we need to be aware of when we're getting ready to enter this into our calculator? And I'm just going to go here because it's a little bit bigger. Does anybody want to hazard a guess? Okay. One of the things we need to keep in mind is that this whole equation is a fraction. And so when we go to enter this, we have to enter it exactly as a fraction. So when you're looking at a problem, there are two things you need to know about doing this. One, we have to enter it as a fraction. And two, this quadratic equation needs to be set to zero. If the quadratic equation is not set to zero before the learner attempts to use these next steps that we're going to go through for this, they're going to get the wrong answer. So we want to consider this first value, the letter A, this second value as the letter B, and this third value as the letter C. So if we were to input this uh, this particular problem, solve for X, into our calculator, we would just need to keep this in mind. So let me clear this out. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do when you come across a quadratic equation that looks like this and is set to zero is we're going to store these values as these variables, A, B, and C. So I'm going to take the letter 3 and I'm going to store it as A and hit enter. I'm going to take 11. I'm going to store that value as B and enter. And I'm going to take value C, -4, and store that as letter C and enter. Okay, now all we're going to do is we are going to put this exact formula into our calculator exactly the way we see it. And I know this seems like, okay, well, how are you going to do that when you have a plus and a minus here? Well, we're going to do the plus first, and then we're going to do the minus. So the first thing we need to know and remember is that this is a fraction. So the first thing we're going to do is key in this n over d key to be sure that we're putting this in as a fraction. And all I'm going to do is type this formula exactly the way I see it and the way it appears here on your screen. So we're going to start with a minus. I'm going to go over here to the variable key and put in b. Then I'm going to put in my plus sign first. Then I'm going to put in our square root key. So I'm going to put in the second and the square root key. And then I'm going to put in variable b. And I'm going to square it. Then I'm going to put in minus 4ac. Now, there is a little trick to this. You have to come off of this little letter A in order to enter the next value. So you're going to arrow right one time. And now I can put in my second variable C. And then I'm going to drop down and put in 2 and variable A. Okay, from here, we have to come out of the fraction. So even if you're doing this with fractions for any other thing, you always have to come out of your fraction and make sure that your arrow is hovering outside of this entire equation. And then I'm just going to hit enter. And so our first number is 1/3. So kind of like what I did before, I'm going to go up here. So I'm going to arrow up twice. And I'm going to make sure that this equation is highlighted. And I'm just going to hit enter. And from here, you kind of have to just sort of maneuver through this fraction. And what we're really looking to do is to move our cursor right in front of this square root so we can change this sign. So I'm going to make this a minus sign. And now I'm just going to hit enter. And we get 4 for the second value. And those are the answers to the equation we looked at previously. So that is going to be the answer to this equation here. So let's go through this one more time. And then I'm going to just conclude with some additional information and take some questions if you have them. So this is another equation that is set to 0. So when you are doing this, you need to make sure that the equation is set to 0, that we're storing these values as A, B, and C, and that we input the full quadratic equation to get the first value, and then we're going to copy it, and then we're going to move our cursor in front of the square root and change it to a negative sign. I usually just start with the positive signs just because it makes it easy. So I'm going to clear this. I'm going to clear my screen, and let's start all over. So this time we are going to have A, we're going to store the number 2 as our A value. So I'm going to go here and store it as letter A and enter. We're going to store 5 as B and enter. And then I'm going to put in minus 20. Oops, let me go back here. I need to. I'm going to put in minus 25. And I'm going to store this as C and enter. And again, all I'm going to do from this point is to put in the quadratic equation. So we need to make sure that we're putting it in as a fraction. We're going to go to this n over d key. I'm going to put in minus b plus, we'll do square root. And I'm going to put in b squared. Minus 4ac. And remember, when we get to this a, we need to arrow over once and put the c in. Then I'm going to drop down and put in 2a. And then I'm going to arrow over so I'm completely out of this fraction. And my cursor is over here all the way to the far right. And then I'm going to hit enter. And then once again, I'm going to arrow up twice. So I'm copying this whole thing so I don't have to type it all in again. And then we're just going to maneuver our arrow buttons all the way over to the front of this square root. And we'll put in the minus sign and then hit enter. Okay. I know this is a a boatload to take in all on a Thursday right before the holidays. So I'll just say, feel free to go back and watch this uh, over again, or pick up the list of the YouTube videos that I've curated that will also help you walk through just some of these problems one at a time. I also wanted to see if you want additional practice problems, you can go to our study guide. This is a hot link here. So you can go to our study guide to find it. If you have our calculator for the GED or even the HSC, if you turn that over, you're going to see all the other books and materials where we have specific practice problems that will enable you to kind of walk through these with your students, provide much more guided practice than I've kind of given you here in order to do that. We also have additional practice problems which can be found on our website, and this is a hot link here. Uh, Other resources, Texas Instruments has some things here. You kind of have to dig through their website in order to find these. If you get stuck, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to show you where these are located. I'm not actually going to go out onto the TI website to show you because there's just a lot of steps to finding them. We are, as a part of this calculator workshop, we are making a quick offer to you. So there's going to be a 10% off our calculator practice workbook and calculator combination. So if you do need some extra calculators, you can go ahead and order the calculators, and then what you're going to receive here is a 10 pack of either our calculator for the HSC or the calculator for the GED, depending on which test you are covering. We are also offering 10 packs of either the high set or the GED. These are normally $48, but we are offering a special value here. Feel free to take a picture of this screen if you are planning on making a purchase before the end of the year and you want to do it online. You can use the code CALC24 in order to go ahead and do that. We have about 10 minutes, so I'll take any questions or stay on to cover anything that anybody is still shaky on or any questions that you might have. This is my contact information. Know that I cover primarily the Southeast, but if you would like the same seminar either done for your team virtually, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to deliver it as well. So Dan, do we have any questions?
Let me check. Let's see, just some thank yous and someone saying I use these books in class and they're really helpful for me and my students. Someone, Aaron is saying by learning these strategies, I feel more equipped to teach my students skills that will better prepare them for their futures instead of working on overwhelming math. Integrating tools like calculators into their learning not only helps them overcome trauma induced challenges, but also empowers them with critical thinking abilities aligned with real world 21st century problem solving. This approach makes me feel like I'm truly helping them build a foundation for success. And thank you for that, Aaron. And another happy holidays and thank you.
Yeah, I think I see one in here. Thank you for showing how to copy the problem.
Oh, used to recopy the whole formula. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of putting it in. And know that you can use the copy also for other things. You know, you're just gonna have to go and hover over it twice in order to do it. I don't know that it fully works with the table key. It may. I haven't exactly tried it that way, but I know it does work when you're using the store values in here. And I'll just make another separate note that for those of you who are on this call, and for those of you who registered, and maybe you have a friend who couldn't make it on this call. We're going to be sending all of this information to you, including the deck. So feel free to use the deck with your students if you are teaching either in a virtual environment or you want to teach it in a full class environment. These are hopefully real life problems that your students will be exposed to and can use along the way uh, for them to practice. And I've tried to cull different problems so that your students aren't actually going through the same ones over and over again.
Okay. I see no other comments, Karen. Thank you very much for your time in putting it together and presenting it to the group today. I know we've had some tech trouble, which is a little frazzling as we tried to launch this thing. I think it turned out okay, so I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you everyone for your time and attention, and hopefully it was a quick 2 hours.
Okay. Happy holidays.
Holidays to everyone.